In 1940, while Europe collapsed, one man made a decision no human being should ever have to make. He volunteered to enter Auschwitz, not as a prisoner of war, not by accident. He chose it. He had a wife, 2 young children, a home, and a quiet life worth protecting. But he walked away from all of it to pull off a mission everyone believed was impossible. Infiltrate the camp, build a resistance from the inside, and expose its horrors to a world that refused to believe them. His name was Witold Pilecki, and for nearly 50 years after his death, his story was buried, almost erased from history. This is Monochrome Documentaries. We bring history's overlooked heroes to center stage. Before he became prisoner number 4859, Witold Pilecki was a farmer, a husband, and a father. Born in 1901 to a patriotic Polish Catholic family, he grew up with a profound sense of duty. As a young man, he fought against the Bolsheviks in the Polish-Soviet War, earning commendations for his courage. After the fighting stopped, he settled into a quiet life. He married a schoolteacher named Maria, and they had 2 children, Andrei and Zofia. He managed his family's farm, painted, and even wrote poetry. His world was serene, domestic, and filled with the simple joys of family and country. But that world was built on a fragile peace. When Nazi Germany invaded Poland in August 1939, Pilecki was called to defend his homeland. He fought fiercely in a cavalry unit, but Poland's defeat was swift and brutal. Warsaw fell, and the country was carved up by Germany and the Soviet Union. For many, that was the end. For Pilecki, it was just the beginning of a new kind of war. He refused to surrender and made his way to the occupied capital, where he co-founded an underground resistance movement called the Secret Polish Army. Back in his ordinary life, he had everything to lose: a wife he loved, children he adored, and a home he'd built with his own hands. But he was also a soldier, and his country needed him for one last fight, a fight unlike any other. By the summer of 1940, a new, ominous name started circulating in the Polish underground: Auschwitz. It was a former army barracks the Germans had repurposed into a concentration camp. At first, no one knew what it really was. They thought it was a large prison for political enemies. But then, disturbing reports trickled out. Polish professionals, intellectuals, and resistance members were sent there, and soon after, their families would get telegrams announcing their deaths from natural causes. The sheer number of these notices made the Home Army, Poland's main resistance, deeply suspicious. They had to know what was happening inside. They needed eyes and ears on the ground. The plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. Send an agent in, not to break out, but to break in. Pilecki's superiors presented it as a voluntary mission, an invitation, not an order. To almost anyone else, it would have been a death sentence, but Witold Pilecki saw it as his duty. He volunteered. His mission was clear: get inside, organize a resistance network, and smuggle out intelligence about what was really going on. On September 19, 1940, Pilecki set his plan in motion. He took on the identity of a man named Tomasz Serafiński, who was thought to be dead. Then, he deliberately walked into a łapanka, a brutal street roundup by the SS in Warsaw, designed to capture citizens for forced labor or imprisonment. Just as he planned, he was arrested with nearly 2,000 other civilians. After 2 days in a detention center, he was forced onto a train heading east. He arrived at Auschwitz on the night of September 21st and was officially registered in the camp on September 22nd. Any illusion that this was just a prison camp vanished instantly. He later wrote, "Here we gave everything away. Here our hair of head and body were cut off. I got a blow in my jaw with a heavy rod. I spat out my 2 teeth. Bleeding began. From that moment, we became mere numbers." He was assigned prisoner number 4859. The gate above him bore the infamous words, "Arbeit macht frei," work sets you free. Witold Pilecki had successfully crossed the threshold. He had walked willingly into hell, leaving his name, his family, and his life behind. He was now just a number, a ghost on a mission, in the heart of the Nazi empire of death. Inside Auschwitz, Pilecki discovered a world engineered to destroy the human spirit before the body. The daily reality was a nightmare of starvation rations, back-breaking labor, and the constant, random brutality of SS guards. In a place where a prisoner's life expectancy was measured in weeks, Pilecki's mission seemed impossible. He barely survived bouts of pneumonia and typhus in the lice-infested hospital, all while enduring what he called the hardest battle of his life, gnawing hunger. But even in that abyss, he got to work. Pilecki immediately began organizing. He wasn't there just to survive. He was there to resist. He carefully sought out other soldiers and underground members, slowly building a secret network called the Związek Organizacji Wojskowej, or ZOW, the Military Organization Union. The ZOW was structured in small, secret cells of 5 to keep the network from collapsing if one cell was compromised. The ZOW's first job was to boost morale. They spread news from the outside, distributed smuggled food and clothes, and gave prisoners a shred of hope in a place designed to extinguish it. But their most critical task was gathering intelligence. Pilecki and his network documented everything: the camp's layout, the guards' routines, the torture methods, and the ever-growing number of deaths. Smuggling this information out was incredibly dangerous. The first report was sent in October 1940 with a released prisoner. By March 1941, Pilecki's intelligence had reached the Polish government in exile in London, and from there, the Allies. Other messages were hidden with escapees or in laundry sent out of the camp. At one point, the resistance even built a radio transmitter from smuggled parts, broadcasting updates on the atrocities until it became too risky. Pilecki witnessed the camp's horrifying transformation firsthand. It started as a brutal camp for Polish political prisoners and became the epicenter of the Holocaust. He saw the first experiments with Tyclone B gas and reported on the construction of massive gas chambers and crematoria at the new Birkenau section. His reports were among the first and most detailed eyewitness accounts of the final solution. He documented the selection process, the sterilization experiments, and the industrial scale of the killing, estimating the crematoria could burn 8,000 people a day. These were just reports. They were desperate cries for help. Pilecki repeatedly begged the Allies to bomb the railway lines leading to the camp, or even the gas chambers themselves. He argued that while it would kill prisoners, including him, it would disrupt the machinery of death and save countless others. He also developed a plan for a massive prisoner uprising, timed with an attack from the outside by the Home Army. But his reports were often met with disbelief. The horror he described was so monstrous that Allied commanders thought his accounts had to be exaggerated. No orders came to bomb the tracks. No plan for an uprising was approved. As the Gestapo began closing in on his network, Pilecki realized he'd reached a breaking point. After 2.5 years, he knew he had to get out. He couldn't convince the world from inside the wire. He would have to do it in person. By the spring of 1943, the Gestapo was hunting for the camp's resistance, and many of Pilecki's closest allies had been executed. He knew his own death was likely next. For 2.5 years, 947 days, he had gathered proof and built a secret army. But his ultimate goal was unfulfilled. He came to a stark conclusion. His reports weren't enough. He had to deliver the message himself. It was time to escape. An escape attempt was a monumental risk. Failure meant a slow, public execution by hanging. On the night of April 26, 1943, Pilecki and 2 comrades were assigned to a night shift at a camp bakery outside the main fence. This was their chance. Under the cover of darkness, they overpowered a guard, unlocked a heavy door, and ran for their lives as shots rang out behind them. How fast we were running, it is hard to describe, Pilecki later wrote. For a week, they traveled on foot, covering nearly 100 kilometers, their bodies weakened by years of malnutrition, but fueled by adrenaline. They avoided German patrols and relied on the kindness of strangers, who risked their own lives to help them. In an unbelievable twist of fate, their journey led them to a small manor house where Pilecki, still using his alias, sought help. There, he came face to face with the real Tomasz Serafiński, the man whose identity he had borrowed. Serafiński had not died after all, and was now a resistance leader himself. Imagine that meeting, the ghost and the man he was pretending to be, united in the middle of an occupied country. Pilecki finally reached the Home Army headquarters in August 1943. He had spent 947 days in Auschwitz, organized the resistance, and escaped to tell the tale. He delivered his comprehensive account, Witold's Report, a detailed 100-page document chronicling the camp's horrors. He passionately argued for his plan to liberate the camp, but his victory felt hollow. The Home Army leadership, already stretched thin, deemed his plan too risky. They feared massive reprisals and didn't believe they had the strength to attack the heavily armed SS garrison. His pleas were denied. The world had turned a deaf ear once again. Witold Pilecki had seized the sword from the dragon's lair, but no one wanted to wield it. Escaping Auschwitz wasn't the end of Pilecki's fight. Though his plan to liberate the camp was rejected, he rejoined the Polish Home Army. When the Warsaw Uprising erupted on August 1st, 1944, a 63-day battle against the German occupiers, Pilecki fought on the front lines. He initially served as a common soldier, but when officers were killed, he revealed his rank and took command of a company, fighting with his trademark bravery. The uprising was tragically crushed. Warsaw was reduced to rubble, and Pilecki was captured and sent to German prisoner of war camps, including Oflag 7A in Murnau. The war ended in 1945. The Nazi occupation was replaced by a new tyranny, a Soviet-backed communist regime. For Pilecki, a man who had dedicated his life to a free Poland, this was another betrayal. He returned to Poland in October 1945 as an undercover agent, this time to gather intelligence on Soviet atrocities and the persecution of Polish patriots by the new secret police. Before he left, he wrote his final, comprehensive report on Auschwitz, knowing he might not survive his new mission. His superiors ordered him to leave Poland for his safety, but he refused. On May 8, 1947, the inevitable happened. Pilecki was arrested by the communist secret police and taken to Warsaw's Mokotów prison. There, he was brutally tortured. During a final meeting with his wife, he told her, "Auschwitz was just a child's game compared to this." This statement from a man who survived nearly 3 years in a death camp is a chilling testament to the cruelty he endured. He was put on a sham trial in March 1948, accused of espionage for a foreign imperialist power. The trial was political theater. His heroism during the war, especially his mission to Auschwitz, was not allowed as evidence. In a sickening twist, a key witness for the prosecution was Józef Ciechankiewicz, a future Polish prime minister who had also been an Auschwitz prisoner. On May 15, 1948, Pilecki was sentenced to death. He told the court, "I've been trying to live my life so that in the hour of my death, I would rather feel joy than fear." On May 25, 1948, he was executed with a single shot to the back of the head. Witold Pilecki was murdered, and the communist regime he fought against tried to erase him from history. His body was dumped in an unmarked grave, its location still unknown. His name was forbidden, his story suppressed. For over 40 years, Poland's greatest hero was a ghost. But you can't permanently bury a story this powerful. After the fall of communism in 1989, Pilecki's story finally emerged from the shadows. In 1990, he was formally exonerated of all charges. Today, he is celebrated as a national hero in Poland and an inspiration across the globe. His report from Auschwitz is recognized as one of the most important first-hand accounts of the Holocaust ever written. British historian Michael Foot named him one of the 6 most courageous figures of the World War II resistance. Pilecki's life redefines heroism. His missions often ended in what the world calls failure. His reports were ignored. His uprising was denied, and his country wasn't freed in his lifetime. But his heroism wasn't measured in success. It was measured in the act of trying. It was measured in his choice to stand against evil, not because he was guaranteed to win, but because it was necessary. He returned from his journey not with a tangible victory, but with a testament to the endurance of the human spirit. His legacy is a reminder that even when the world refuses to listen, a single voice crying out from the heart of the inferno can echo through eternity. If this story hits you hard, trust me, the one on your left will leave you speechless. It's one of the most insane World War II stories we've ever told. Thanks for watching.